Eretz Mitzrayim, on the third day of the Yidden going out of the land of Mitzrayim, by Yom Hazeh, on this day, Bom Midbar Sinai, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. So the question is, what does by Yom Hazeh mean? It's a very unusual expression that doesn't really tell us anything about the date. The Isa Gemara, it's brought down the Gemara, it says over here in our pasuk, by Yom Hazeh, Bom Midbar Sinai, in this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. And it says over there in Parshas Boy, this month is for you, the head of months. So we make a gzeir shav of the word hazeh. In our parsha it says by Yom hazeh, this day, and in that parsha it says in this month. So ma'alahal reish chodesh afkan reish chodesh, just like in Parshas Boy it was talking about reish chodesh. In that case, it was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The same thing over here, where it says by Yom Hazeh, Bo Midbar Sinai, it's talking about Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the third month, the Rosh Chodesh of the month. So the Rebbe says we do a diuk. It's known the analysis. Mashenamra by Yom Hazeh Stam. The fact that it says it by Yom Hazeh without specifying what day it was. And we need to come on to the Gzeir Shavah that the Gemara says that's Rosh Chodesh. And why does it not say openly? It doesn't say openly that was the first day of the month. Rashi explains why specifically use such an enigmatic type of term. Why say it by Yom Hazeh? Especially Yom Hazeh seems to indicate that it's something that's now, not like the Mefarshim would say, could have said by Yom Hahu. In that day, they came to Midbar Sinai. It's not by Yom Hazeh. It's not the person that's not reading it. It's not happening today. So he says, Rashi's Mefarish L'mash Kosa B'Yom Hazeh. Why does it say this day? It's that the words of Torah should be as new to you as if they were given today. That's why it says by Yom Hazeh. So the Rebbe wants to connect or understand the association between these two things. We need to understand the Pirish Bayom Hazeh Kipshutai, the literal meaning of Bayom Hazeh, like we brought before from the Gemara, Bayom Hazeh Koyal Rosh Chodesh Sivan. It's going on the Rosh Chodesh Sivan. That day was the day that they came to Midbar Sinai. According to the explanation that Rashi says, that the words of Torah should be as new to you. So then, what does Bayom Hazeh refer to? Kol Yom, the Kol Yom Shana. It's talking about every single day of all the days of the year is called Yom Hazeh. So it's in a way like contradictory. Either it's talking about Rosh Chodesh Sivan, or it's talking about every day of the year. How do we fit these two things together? Also, we need to understand that Rebbe says, Kadir, like in many Mamorim, he analyzes this. How is it possible that the words of Torah should be every day new to you? How can we consider it new? Chadoshim achar shekvar nitna Torah yosem begimel alofim shana. How could it be that they could be new after the Torah was given more than 3,000 years ago? We want to have it to be considered new. So the Rebbe says, seemingly we could explain this according to what it's explained in the Mamorim by this very same title, Baxhodsh Ashlishi, the same title like this Maimer. The Pirish HaKosav in the explanation, the pasuk by Dabril Kimis Kol Advarim Heila Leimer, that Hashem spoke all these matters, saying. Now, Leimer, all the Mefarshim want to know that what it says at the beginning, Aseres HaDibris, Leimer, it's an unusual usage of the word Leimer. Usually, when it says Leimer, it's when Hashem was speaking to Moshe, and he told Moshe, Leimer, to say it over to Bnei Yisrael. But here, since the whole entire Bnei Yisrael were gathered, and including all the neshamas of all generations, what does it mean, Leimer. So the Tevis Leimer b'pasuk zeh pirushahu, the meaning of the word Leimer in this pasuk, it is shalimud HaTorah, the Torah study, kol advar ma'ela. And by Dabrokim is kol advar ma'ela does not just mean in a narrow sense, just Aser Sadibris, but kol advar ma'ela Leimer, it's referring, kol advar means all the matters of the Torah. The whole Torah was given at Matan Torah. It should be yiyah ba'ofen the Leimer, should be in a way of to say, lachzor advarim shakadosh baruch hu omer achshav, meaning to repeat those things that Hashem is saying now. It's not something that was said 3,000 years ago. Hashem is saying the Torah now. And we now have to repeat it and say it over like we're hearing it now. Like it says in the pasuk, Tan l'shayni imrasecha, that my tongue will respond to your sayings. Is what's called responsive readings. That after a chazan says something, you respond and repeat the same thing over. So the same thing where it comes to Torah, Sha Torah hi imrasecha. David HaMelech is saying that the Torah is your, Hashem's saying. You are saying it. Ela shalashayni tan, my tongue is responding, repeating, ka'ayna achar omer, like someone responding after someone else that's saying. And therefore, since the Torah is in the way of Leimer, that I feel that I am not saying it of my own, but Hashem is saying it now and I am repeating it. Therefore, therefore we can fulfill what it says, that just like then, by Matan Torah, the Torah was said in such a way that the Yidden were not trembling in fear and scared, etc. So too, when every person learns Torah, has to be with the same awe and fear of Hashem. How come? Because by Torah study now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Hadvarim Ha'ela Achshav, Hashem is saying these matters now, but in the very same manner like he was saying it at the time of the giving of the Torah. Also, this needs explanation. Since the words of Hashem are living and existing forever without any change, like the pasuk says, that the words of Hashem is everlasting. What is now added, and what novelty, uniqueness is there now in the words of Torah? The fact that at the time that the person is learning it, Hashem's kaviyachol saying it. Another time, if Hashem's words are anyway everlasting, what's the chiddush now that we are now repeating what Hashem is saying now? Next page. This will be understood by prefacing the Isa Medrash from what is brought down the Medrash. The well-known idea that the Rebbe constantly brings down, that the Matan Torah is Mashla Melech, this is a metaphor of a king that decreed and said that the citizens of Rome should not go down to Syria, the citizens of Syria should not go up to Rome. So too, when Hashem created the world, Gazer V'amar, he decreed and he said, Hashemayim Shemayim L'Hashem, the heavens are the heavens for Hashem. V'aretz Nasal V'nei Adam, the earth he gave to human beings. And there was a separation, and there was no communication, no connection whatsoever. There was like Rome and Syria being separated. When Hashem wanted to give the Torah, Bit like Zera, he nullified the decree. V'amar, he said, those below will ascend above. And those above will descend below. And I will begin. Like it says, that Hashem descended on Har Sinai, and the opposite, the Aliyas Tachtoinim, Vel Moshe Amar Alei Avayim. Then Moshe said, go up to Avayim. Now, even though the Moshe was going up at the time of Matan Torah, but the real going up that Rebbe is going to point out is further on. It's known the revelation of godliness in the world that took place during Matan Torah. The descent of those above to below. That Havai descended on Har Sinai. Was in such a way that it came from above to below. Meaning, the revelation was all Hashem's doing. It was brought down, it was something that Hashem brought down from above. But the below was not a vessel for this, was not really something that was capable of receiving this and causing it, etc. So therefore, what does it mean? The tachtoinim ya'alu al yonim, ve'inya tachtoinim ya'alu al yonim. This word says that those below will rise up above. By Matan Torah, by Matan Torah, we were given the capability. Sha'avoida Torah mitzvah shalach Matan Torah, the avoida of Torah mitzvahs following Matan Torah. Tifel ba'olam she'aklil alakus will influence and affect the world, that the world will be a vessel for godliness. Like it's explained in a different place, the fact that through fulfilling mitzvahs, the world became refined, and the physical matters in the world that the mitzvahs is done in is refined to such a degree that the very matters of the world, they actually become items and objects of mitzvah. That's not just refinement, that's becomes sanctified. It's through a special empowerment that we were given during Matan Torah. Since the mitzvah is Hashem's will, and the physical item with which the mitzvahs are performed with are incomparable to Hashem's will. So therefore, how can the gap be bridged over here, that the physical item should become a mitzvah? So that the mitzvah should be able to effect a change in the matters of this world. It's through nullifying the decree and removing the barriers between the above, which is the mitzvahs, and those below, which is the physical items in the world. In a similar vein, it's concerning Torah study. The fact that through Torah study becomes a change in the person himself becomes elevated through it. The Rebbe brings in a footnote from the story in Mugga that says, if not for the day of Matan Torah, how many people like me would be in the marketplace? In other words, in what way am I different than anyone else? And Rashi says that I became greater and elevated through Torah. So we find also Torah study changes the person that studied Torah, elevates the person that studied Torah, similar to how mitzvahs change and elevate the physical object. To such a degree that the person that studies Torah becomes joined with the wisdom of Hashem. How does that change take place? It's through the fact that Matan Torah becomes the nullifying of this decree that Rome should not go down to Syria and Syria should not go down to Rome. And this separation that there is between the wisdom of Hashem, which is called the Elyonim, Bein Elyonim v'Tachtoinim, we said in the Mashal, and the intellect of the person, which is Tachtoinim. So this separation was removed by Matan Torah to enable that post Matan Torah, you should be able to have this elevation. So even though we said that there was Tachtoinim Ya'alu al Yonim at the time of Matan Torah, but primarily the focus of what he's saying now is Matan Torah, we were enabled to do the ascent, the Tachtoinim Yalu L'Elyonim of after Matan Torah. That's part of what he's pointing out over here. Ois Gimel, V'hinei, B'may Lo Mata Elyonim Tachtoinim Shnei Perushim Inyonim. When we talk about that there's the above and the below, Elyonim, Tachtoinim, there's two explanations, two concepts. Milo Mata B'makim, something that's higher and lower in place. Either it's Makim Gashmi, a physical place, a Makim Ruchni, spiritual place, meaning something is a higher level or a lower level, even though it has nothing to do with physical space. The Inyan Zeh, the Milo Mata, this distinction of something that's higher and lower, even in the spiritual realms, Humea Kav. The Kav, that first line that came after the Tzimtzum Rishon, it's brought down in many places in Chassidus, was responsible to cause the divisions of above and below. The Bim Haisam Shachim Oinosaf Shaloyal Der Kav, if the Hamshach would have come from the Oinosaf, not through the Kav, Hayukala Oilmas B'Shava, all the worlds would have been the same, there wouldn't have been any distinctions. So Kav was responsible in making the distinctions of that which is above and that which is below. Another explanation on above and below, the very idea that there's a concept of place, spiritual place, which spiritual place means that there are things that are higher and there are things that are lower. That very concept, that is called mata. That whole concept, even the highest level of the kav, for example, is still called mata because it's still under the paradigms of place, even spiritual place. When we talk about above, it's beyond and above any type of division. Perhaps this is similar. I think we might have had this in a Maimah recently. I'm not sure. That a person calls, a regular Jew that doesn't know deep levels, calls Hashem der Eibishter. Der Eibishter means the one above. He doesn't mean the one above, that's the highest level of the different levels. He means that it's beyond everything. The whole idea of levels and the whole idea of distinctions don't apply. So that's an alternate way of explaining Mila Mata. Mata is wherever there is distinctions of Mila, Mata, etc. Mila means something that the entire idea of above and below doesn't even apply. Okay, do have a Pirish HaMaimer or in Saf L'Maila Maila Din Ketz, top of page Tofaf Aleph, Mata Mata Din Tachlis, like it's known the explanation where it says that Oyer Saf is above to no end and below to no end. So the Lamata Mata Hua Oyer Shabchinas Gvul Sher Shakav. The level in the Oyer Saf is the Mata Mata, the one that's below to no end. That's the light that's in the level that has to do with Gvul, has to do with boundaries, which is the root in the Oyer Saf Shlifnat Tzimtzum for what eventually would become the Kav after the Tzimtzum. Yesh by Behelim, in this level of Lamata Mata, it has already concealed in it Haischalkus the Milo Mata, the division of above and below, Shema Shoirish the Milo Mata Shvoilmas, the root of the Kav is the root of the above and below of all the worlds. And above and above to no end, that's the infinite light of Hashem. It's the root of the Soiviv, it's beyond the vision. So therefore, when we talk about Maila and Mata, so therefore, Maila is something that is not just the highest level, but it means it's so high that the concept of levels don't apply over there. Like Oyenesaf Lamaila Maila Den Ketz, that over there where we talk about Lamaila Maila Den Ketz, we're not talking about levels. We're talking about it's of a totally different category that the entire idea of Maila Mata doesn't apply. So now the Rebbe is going to use this definition of Maila Mata, or these definitions of Maila Mata, and apply it to the idea of Matan Torah, the Chibur of Alyonim V'Tachtoin. Says in the fourth line on the page, we could say, the fact that during Matan Torah there became a joining of above and below, is in both aspects, both Maila Mata as levels, and also Maila as higher than any levels, and that's why it's called Maila Mata. By Matan Torah, there was a union of the levels of above and below in the world itself, in the level of place. In general, it's the joining of the world of Atzilus and the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. And even more, also it's going on the joining of the infinite light of Hashem beyond the worlds. So therefore, the whole term of Maila Mata doesn't apply. With the light that has Ima Ershaberach Oilmis, which over there, Maila Mata begin to apply, like we said before. The light that has to do with the worlds, that is the root, that is the source of Maila Mata. Okay, where do we see that this is what took place with Matan Torah? Not just to join the higher and lower levels within levels, but the level that's higher beyond all levels. Like it's known in mitzvah shachar Matan Torah, the idea of the mitzvahs that were performed by the Yidden after Matan Torah, shal yodam nasa yichud kudsha brichu shchinte, through the mitzvahs becomes the union of kudsha brichu shchinte, like many times we say before certain mitzvahs or etc., for the sake of unifying kudsha brichu shchinte. And Chassidus explains that the levels of kudsha brichu shchinte is Yichud Soiv V'Mala, the union of Soiv V'Mala to the highest most level of Soiv V'Mala, the way it's higher and above everything, to the levels that have to do with levels already. Oizdalt, V'hinei Inyan Zeh, Shebachibur de Mailo Mata Shematan Torah, Nichol Gam HaMailo Shalom Mailo, Megedadol Mailo Mata Shaboilm, is this idea that in the joining of above and below of Matan Torah is included also the above, the level of above that's even beyond levels. Who hein ben again and since koyach shahoyse Matan Torah ala avodah Torah mitzvah shala achri Matan Torah. It's both concerning the empowerment that was given during Matan Torah for the service of Torah mitzvahs following Matan Torah. Hatachtoinim yal al yoinim, that those below go up above. Shaidei avoyas tachtoinim yumshach oir hatzilus va'oir hasoivev va'ad l'oir habligvul shalifnei hatzimtzum hashorish l'oir hasoivev. That through the avoid of the tachtoinim, they accomplish that it's not just the light of Atzilus should come down, which is Maila in the categories of Maila Mata, but even the Oir HaSoiviv, which is Maila beyond the categories of Maila Mata, until the light of the Bligvul of before the Tzimtzum. Vehein also b'achibur the Maila Mata al yoinim yerdo tachtoinim shoy b'shas Matan Torah gufa. The joining of Maila beyond every definition of Maila Mata that took place during Matan Torah as an empowerment for what would take place after Matan Torah also includes Maila beyond all definition. The Indian who the idea behind this is, in Yadu it's known, Shat Torah Maila Mizman Mokim. Torah is beyond time and place, as opposed to the ordinary Maila Mata, which is the place in the spiritual sense of Maila Mata, of place. Shalachein, for that reason, whoever is involved and engaged in the teachings of the laws of the carbon oil law, it's as if he sacrificed an oil, though he's not at the time that he's supposed to bring it. You can only bring it during the day. You're not allowed to bring the korbanos during the night. And only bring it on Mizbeach, on the Beis HaMikdash. Still in all, he can bring it. He could learn this at any time, and it's as if he fulfilled the mitzvah, any time and any place. That's because the idea of Torah is beyond the entire category of Maila Mata. That's the idea that by Matan Torah, it came down the level of Maila beyond every type of definition of Maila beyond even the levels of Maila V'mata, but Maila as it defies the entire paradigm of spiritual place as well.